And if I had to be another person to stand up, if I think after really going through this, and looking at the files and looking at the case, if I really feel that Karen Reed didn't do this and I have to be a voice that stands up and helps, I will.
We're expecting to learn more about the allegations against the girlfriend of a Boston police officer who was found unresponsive in the snow Saturday morning. I-Team sources say Karen Reed was in a relationship with John O'Keefe. She's facing charges including motor vehicle homicide and manslaughter.
We're the only ones fighting for the truth of what happened to John O'Keefe. And me and my family and my attorneys and my team have marshaled every resource to get to the truth. It just feels like no one else wants it.
Now, just be clear, you didn't do it.
We know who did it, Steve. We know. And we know who spearheaded this cover-up. You all know.
Yes, we do.
And no, she didn't do it. No, she didn't do it. This is an innocent woman. She didn't do it.
I tried to save his life.
Yeah.
I tried to save his life at 6 in the morning. I was covered in his blood. I was the only one trying to save his life.
Why'd you admit to it?
She didn't admit to it. She didn't admit to anything close to that. Nothing close to that. And you should know that.
That was like 3 or 4 times she admitted to it.
No, she didn't.
That's not true.
She asked a question. She asked a question, which is very different. She didn't admit to anything.
I'm going to tell you one thing. Karen Reed's not going to fold. Karen Reed's not going to give up. Defense team's not going to quit. The Free Karen Reed movement is going to continue. We will continue to raise funds for her. We will continue to do standouts across Massachusetts, across the nation, across the world to let everybody know what's going on here in the state of Massachusetts, the corruption. And we will continue to get the word out there. Believe me. Believe me. Good Wednesday morning, everybody. Welcome back into the LTL live show here. It's a beautiful, absolutely beautiful New England day here in Massachusetts. Well, it looks like we're going to actually be getting some really warm weather in the next week and a half. So I'm super excited about that because I hate the winter and I hate the winters here. And I always look forward to spring and the warmer weather. But I hope everybody's having a wonderful Wednesday morning so far. Nice to see everybody here in the chat. Thank you, Go Squad members, for popping in. If I get some of my channel moderators in here, I don't want to forget about you as well. As you can see, I am currently at home. Today's my day off from work, and I have a few personal things that I need to do. But I have something planned for this afternoon, so you're going to want to look out for that. I should be announcing it later this afternoon, and I'm really excited about what we're going to do. But I wanted to start the show off with saying happy 45th birthday to Karen Reed. Today is her birthday, and I wanted to come on this morning here and help promote her defense fund. So as the chat will go, you'll see Nightbot chat chime in, and we'll drop her defense link. And what I would love for you all to do while watching this live today, if you could help Karen out, and just click on that defense link as it drops, or it's pinned to the top of the chat. Click on that and let's make a donation of $4.50. I mean, I think that's probably less than a Starbucks coffee, less than, a newspaper, probably a newspaper today as well, or even like a coffee in, I don't know, a donut at Dunkin' Donuts, whatever you enjoy, whatever you like. But I think you're getting my point here. If you can click on that link, let's donate $4.50. It's just $4.50. That's less than a $5 super chat. If you can click on that and in your comments section, put LTL Media and happy birthday, something like that. I just want to make sure that we designate the LTL Media so I can go back at the end of the stream and we'll count up the donations and see how much money we raised during this live stream. Oh, my voice cracked. So let's sit back. I have a little bit of things that I want to go through today. Obviously, yesterday was an extremely busy day in court for Karen's team. It went pretty much all day, and over the 4 o'clock stop that Bev likes to always stop at. And she said to Mr. Alessi yesterday that was on absolute complete fire. The team came prepared. They had receipts. And what did Bev say as we were getting to the end of the day? It's been a long day. She doesn't want to hear it. She wants to go home. She doesn't want to be there. So she's going to continue to inconvenience this defense team and bring them in multiple times to continue to waste money before this said trial in April. It's been a long day, right? It's been a long day, Mr. Alessi. That's because she didn't want to hear it anymore. In my opinion, I think that she's already made her mind up. Do I think? Yeah, in my opinion, I think that she's leaning towards already making her mind up. But it just remains to be seen. Remains to be seen. I mean, that's my feelings on all of this. And to see the Commonwealth insert this in the previous hearing about the ARCA experts getting paid and wasting the defense's time. Hank Brennan knows what he's doing. He's just shit stirring the pot. Let's get down to brass tacks here. This is what he's doing. Shit stirring the pot. And to create roadblocks for this defense, for them to absolute waste of time yesterday, and to put her team through this. Let's drag them in out of court. Let's bring them back. Let's have all these hearings. Let's drain the resources. The Commonwealth knows they're up against the wall because they have an independent team that came in that are experts in physics and logic and took all of this information and crunched that data and put it in front of the Commonwealth and defense team. And here we are. Karen Reed's vehicle didn't make contact with John O'Keefe, and John O'Keefe didn't make contact with Karen Reed's vehicle. That is a very frightening thing for the Commonwealth. That scares them because that's the case. That is the case right there. And I would say another major portion of the case, and I've been saying this over the last couple of days religiously, that Jennifer McCabe made that Google search at 2:27 a.m. It's another frightening thing for the Commonwealth. But I think ARCA is the top thing for them right now because it sets it aside. This is independent organization that came in and analyzed all this data and took their brilliance, their sheer brilliance of all those people together to crunch this and put it together and say, hey, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. So let's do this. I have a little bit of an article here. I always love hearing the mainstream media's point of view on all of this at the end of the day. And let's read this from Boston 25 News. And then we're gonna hear the analysis from NBC Boston. Oof, Sue O'Connell. We're gonna love that. And then we're gonna get in at the back end of the show. We're gonna watch the second part to the Ted Daniel interview. They released the whole thing, which I think is great. It's about 25 minutes, and it's Ted and Karen in an SUV having a conversation. So we'll see here. Karen Reed back in court after judge grave concern abruptly ends previous hearing. Karen Reed returned to court on Tuesday for a continuation of last week's hearing, which ended abruptly after the judge expressed grave concern. Norfolk Superior Court Judge Beverly Canone said that she had grave concern over new information shared by the Commonwealth that may have profound effects on the future of the Karen Reed murder case. Yeah, it would be profound effects because ARCA is right. ARCA is right. So, and they are correct in their analysis and crunching of all this data and coming to their determination, an independent organization. So yeah, it would have profound effects. The Commonwealth just provided the court with information that causes me grave concern, Canone said. The implication of that information may have profound effects on the defense and the defense counsel. Bum, bum, bum. Canone called for a recess, and it came immediately after Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan said in open court that the Reed's defense team communicated with ARCA accident reconstruction experts about their testimony prior to the Reed's first trial. Those ARCA experts were usually hired by the feds. Brennan read from what appeared to be emails between the defense and ARCA as referring to a $23,000 bill that he says ARCA sent to the defense. Brennan called it unfair, imbalanced, and hidden. Okay, well, how about the Sallyport video? How about the runaround that you've given this defense team with the Sallyport video? You don't believe that that's not unfair, imbalanced, and hidden, Brennan? You don't feel that? So at Tuesday's hearing, lawyers have been told to be prepared to address the issues from last night's hearing, especially prior representations made by the defense concern of the ARCA witnesses. Brennan Leasley filed a motion back to block the defense ARCA witnesses. Of course, that's the case. That is the case, man. And I can tell you this, that Karen's team will be absolutely 100% more prepared this time to introduce ARCA into the second trial. And I think they're going to waive heavily on that. That is the sticking point, in my opinion. That is the absolute sticking point, in my opinion. Let the jury know about these independent experts that came in and tied all this together and said, it didn't happen. It did not happen. That scares the Commonwealth. Tuesday's hearing, let's see, Brennan recently filed a motion to block the witness from testifying in retrial. In this motion, Brennan said both Dr. Wolf and Dr. Rensler immediately did not review all permanent and relevant evidence in this case. Cannone declared a mistrial in July of 2024 after finding jurors could not reach an unanimous verdict on all the charges of second-degree murder, leaving the scene of a crash and manslaughter. Let's see. This is the background of the case. We know it. Sources tell Boston 25 that prosecutor Hank Brennan plans to announce that the federal investigation is over in court during Tuesday's hearing. Do we hear him say that at all? Reed's retrial is delayed until April 2025. And it's funny that we didn't hear that yesterday. And Christina Rex was all over Twitter yesterday. I think some of these reporters, these mainstream reporters are, a little backpedaling a little bit here because they get their sauces. Christina said, despite it not coming up in court yesterday, as expected, hearing continued next week, a second source close to the investigation confirmed to me that they got notified that the federal investigation into Karen Reed's case is over. David Yannetti told me he had no comments. And I fired back, said, in my opinion, if there was any truth to what these sauces are telling you, Hank would have definitely been front and center announcing that the federal investigation was over today, meaning yesterday, especially after we just spent an entire day listening to Alessi talk about the feds. And I loved it. They got it right in there yesterday, up front and center in their presentation. It was like within 2 minutes of Alessi being up there and just said, feds, 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 feds. And I loved it because it's all on the record. It's all there. If this ever has to go to an appeal or what may be, it is there on the record, and I love it. It's all there. Okay, let's hear the mainstream analysis from yesterday, especially from our favorite contributor in the mainstream media, Sue O'Connell from NBC Boston 10. It's about a 20-minute video, and then we're going to get to the Ted Daniel interview to end the program today. What I'm asking is, and you can see Nightbot just dropped it. Today is Karen Reed's 45th birthday. If you can, please consider donating $4.50 to her defense fund. And in your comment, write LTL Media. And what I'm going to do at the end of this live today is I'm going to add up the donations as they come in. Hopefully we can raise some money. And I have something planned for this afternoon. So just hang in for that as well. All right, let's go through this this breakdown from all the legal minds and journalists here in Massachusetts. This should be
Tonight on
interesting.
Canton Confidential, answering grave concerns in the courtroom. The
Grave
relationship between Reed's
concerns
defense
in the
team
courtroom.
and key witnesses.
Clearly, the ARCA witnesses were expecting to get paid.
Karen Reed's newest attorney defending what happened during the first trial.
No doubt the invoice was paid. But the story is not solely about was the invoice paid. Facts is it came out of the blue.
Plus,
How masterful was Alessi yesterday? Oh, just great. Great stuff. This is definitely if I was a lawyer or an aspiring lawyer, that would be my inspiration. Not that anybody here on Karen's team is not my inspiration, but just when Alessi gets up, I love him. He's loud, he's direct, he breaks it down in the simplest form, and it just works. It just works. And I think it was masterful that they used him yesterday, because I don't think it probably would have went well if Jackson got up and argued this, considering it's Jackson that's in this implication of lying, which is just complete bullshit. But I thought Alessi getting up, being prepared with the receipt and to get ready to do this, I think was masterful. All right, let's hear.
learning about the Commonwealth's new prosecutor from his former legal partner.
Hank is one of the best cross-examiners I've ever seen in my career.
Oh, great
Canton
calling. Thank you.
Confidential, the Karen Reed trial starts right now.
Oh, that was with the
And
guy
welcome
with
to
the
Canton
voice.
Confidential. I'm JC Monahan. Today, there were hours of legal debate for a high-stakes situation in the Karen Reed murder trial. It could mean key expert witnesses for the defense are removed from the retrial, possible discipline for Karen Reed's lawyers, and today, a new face in Reed's legal team led the
And the great thing about it, and I always talk about getting things on the record, what happened yesterday is the judge had Alan Jackson stand up and put it on the record. He didn't had no idea of this. Liz Little got up, put it on the record. I had no idea of this. J. Vignetti got up and put it on the record. I had no idea of this. I don't think that 3 lawyers would get up and lie in front of a judge and risk to be disbarred and kicked off this case if they didn't know about this payment, this receipt that came out of the blue. I don't think they would do that. Lie and get themselves potentially disbarred for lying. So I'm glad that was on the record as well, too. Here we go.
charge. Robert Alessi responded to the accusations by prosecutors that led Judge Beverly Cannoni, you may remember this, to say she had grave concerns about the defense's behavior. With team coverage tonight, beginning with NBC 10's John Maroney, who joins us with what was said today inside Norfolk Superior Court.
What the Commonwealth does raise serious issues.
Judge Beverly Cannoni explaining why she suspended last week's hearing in the Karen Reed case, asking the defense to return and address allegations of improper conduct.
Information that was known to the defense, and for whatever reason, perhaps a strategic advantage was not provided to the Commonwealth, the court, nor the jury.
The prosecution is trying to keep accident reconstruction experts from ARCA off the stand. In the first trial, they told the jury John O'Keefe's injuries weren't consistent with getting hit by Reed's SUV, raising questions about how he died.
And there is a very unclear relationship as we stand here right now between the history of interaction between the defense and these ARCA witnesses.
Special prosecutor Hank Brennan accused the defense of failing to disclose they were getting paid $23,000 and had been collaborating with attorney Alan Jackson.
We've spoken to them only for the purposes of coordination of their testimony and their background.
Attorney Robert Alessi says the $23,000 bill was paid after the trial, but there was no prior financial arrangement. In fact, the defense says it was surprised by the invoice.
There's one person that was more shocked than most about the invoice coming in and the amount.
Let's go. One potential sanction against Karen Reed, the loss of one of her out-of-state lawyers.
No one's going to lose any member of my defense team.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
We need an appeal.
This hearing was continued until next week. Judge Cannoni telling all the parties involved they could meet on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday of next week to deal.
I just don't think that this Commonwealth and this court and this case and this judge is wanting to get into a Sixth Amendment violation right now. Karen Read has the right to pick who her attorneys are. She has that right. And this would cause a huge conundrum in this case. So I just don't see it happening. All right, let's keep playing
With
through
all
here.
the outstanding motions. In Dedham, John Maroney, NBC 10 Boston.
I'm joined now by NBC 10 legal expert Michael Coyne and, of course, our
Here we
courtroom
go.
insider, Sue O'Connell. All right, Michael, I'm going to start with you because there was a lot of, let's call it legal jargon today. We're not lawyers, so if you could just boil down, let's start with what Rule 14 is, because that seems to be where this whole begins, this whole thing.
It deals with the discovery and exchange of information between counsel. And your obligations, and the court has made this clear, is for the parties to exchange what's called reciprocal discovery. Provide the information and disclosures to the other side so that they can be properly prepared for trial and to examine the witnesses that the other side is going to produce.
And that's where we're talking about ARCA. If you haven't, so ARCA basically is the reconstruction company that looks at accidents and pedestrian accidents and whatnot, biometrics, whatever it is that's associated with it. So there was a lot of talk about voir dire. Today, we know that's when, I've learned this from you, that you can basically question a potential witness without the jury present. So you can ask questions that maybe wouldn't be allowed in the actual trial, right?
For witnesses, that's what that means.
For witnesses, okay, there.
Potential
I got that.
witnesses.
Potential witnesses. And what the defense said today was, this is such an unusual situation. I think the word unusual was used a lot. That the prosecution, all their complaints about, they didn't know what ARCA was going to say, and the defense knew it. They said there was a voir dire. You could have asked anything you wanted, and you didn't. So that's on the prosecution. Is that what it's for? Is that what they should have done?
No, I find that argument a bit specious. If they don't have the documents, if they don't have the information to properly question the witnesses when they're produced for voir dire, you can't just ask any question out of the blue that might come into your mind. If you had the documents, if you had the information, they could have then inquired about those specific issues with a knowing and intelligent manner of the questioning. Absent the documents, sure, they could have asked any question that popped into their mind, but the disclosures allow us to actually make a decent and reasonable inquiry.
Find your path.
Yeah, and you know what I look at this too is that Alessi said in court yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, that the Commonwealth had the opportunity to engage ARCA before the defense. So they had their opportunity to speak with them, and they didn't want to, because you know why? It didn't fit the Commonwealth's narrative in this case. They didn't want anything to do with them. So of course, when the Commonwealth passed and the defense got this information, they reached out because it was going to be a big sticking point for their case. If you have information from experts that leads to the determination of your client not making contact with the decedent with her SUV, and then the decedent not making, not having contact with the SUV, that's a huge sticking point. That's a huge part of your case. You know, and these are well-qualified experts. They've worked with the NHL. They've worked with the military. They have a plethora of degrees and very trustworthy. So, you know, they didn't want to, the Commonwealth didn't want to engage. And I'm glad that Alessi put that out there and got that on the record. All right, let's keep playing through here. Again, we're trying to raise some money for Karen Read's birthday today. It's her 45th birthday. And if you see the scroller on the bottom there, please consider donating $4.50. That's all we need to do today. $4.50 to her defense fund. The link is pinned at the top of the chat. And just make sure you put LTL Media somewhere in your comment. And at the end of the show, I want to try to total all of those up and see how much money we've raised over this live stream. God, I still cannot get rid of this fucking sinus congestion. I've been like almost over 6 weeks with this crap. Unbelievable. All right, let's keep going here.
Correct.
Okay, excellent. So we saw some back and forth, Sue, between Cannoni and Alessi. We want to listen to a little bit of that, and then we're going to talk on the other side.
my speculation, he sends in the direct to try to get some degree of comfort.
So with all due respect, please don't speculate. Let's move on to the merits, okay?
I will not.
You can use this maybe at argument at some point, but let's just focus on what we have.
I will do that, Your Honor. And
If you know for certain that's the case, that's fine.
I will tell you, and first of all, I appreciate what you said, and I won't speculate anymore. I said I was going to make an exception for this, but here's the fact that I...
No more, because you said you might do it more than once. So no more speculating. But if you know for a fact that that's true, I'll hear it.
What I am going to do, Your Honor, hopefully productively, with no speculation.
Okay, so you don't have to tell me what you're going to do. Just go ahead and do it.
So I will just go ahead and do it, Your Honor. I first want to thank Your Honor for the generous amount of time you're according
You need to thank me. Just go right ahead, sir.
See the
And take your time.
see the O'Keefe team? See them? Look at they're all laughing and smiling. Let's go back here.
I will just go ahead and do it, Your Honor.
Right
I
here.
first
Look
want to
at
thank Your Honor
all
for the generous amount of time you're according.
You need to thank me. Just go right ahead, sir. And take your time, Mr. Leslie. I shouldn't have cut you off. I appreciate that, but
Peggy
take your time. This is important.
laughing.
Thank you.
Okay, so that went on for hours. The niceties and the not so niceties between the two. You were in court today. It felt a little contentious at times while still being very, professional.
Yeah, I didn't get the vibe from Judge Cannoni that she disliked Alessi or wasn't appreciating what he was doing.
So give me a fucking break here, okay? We've seen this through over the past, like, what are we into? 3 years? We've been seeing this all along. And to sit there and say that she doesn't have a bias against Karen Reed's defense team is a fucking laughable joke, okay? Oh, I sat there and didn't think. I mean, you can tell by the tone of someone's voice if they're aggravated or they're annoyed or they don't like someone. I mean, let's be real here, okay? I mean, I know you love the Commonwealth. I know you want to suck up to them. I know you want to report it from the Commonwealth side, okay? But let's be real here. You can hear it in the tonality of her voice and her actions and the size. Oh, and to tell me at the end of the day, when Alessi's trying to make his argument because they went past 4 p.m., she needs her time. She needs her time too. She says, it's been a long day. A long day. Come on.
He
Come
was
on,
being
Sue.
very
You need to
thorough.
do better than
He had
that.
a report. He was being very clear where she should look, what he was talking about, directing her. I think so. And again, I don't know her, and I'm just maybe projecting onto her. Some of the exasperation she might have had is just like, oh my gosh, we are going through this process. Can we just get to it? And obviously, you can speak to this, Michael, better than I.
How about this? If she's angry about having to go through this process, then why did Brennan insert it, bullshit stirring the pot, the last hearing? Because he wanted to make them go through this. It's a strategy tactic, okay? Let's waste more time, okay? Let's get this judge even more pissed at the Reed defense team. That's all that was. It's a strategy tactic. I'm going to insert a bunch of bullshit and stir the pot and make them go through this. Waste their time and resources. That's all it is. That's all it is. All right, let's keep going.
Rob the defense of the opportunity to make their case and to make an argument. But she doesn't need to be convinced in the same way that a jury needs to be convinced, right? So if he's going to be making a statement over and over again, he might be trying to convince a future juror. He might be trying to convince us, and she might just be cutting to the chase saying, I'm a judge. You can tell me what it is. I don't need you to speculate for me. But, again, a few times I saw her, like we did there, pull back and just go, look it, take your time. Do what you need to do a proper defense here, but we don't need the whole dog and pony show because we're going to be here a lot and we have been here a lot.
Well, we know that because
it's
it's
my
going to be 3
job.
days next week. I just want to ask you quickly, Michael.
It's her job. She might be there for a long time today. Well, I don't know what to tell you. That's your job. That's your job to be there.
think what you heard from Alessi today is enough that there wouldn't be punishment for one or more members of the defense team?
No, I don't. I don't think he was convincing and to respond to the judge's specific comments about the sidebar representations that were made and about the calling of the witnesses without having any communication with them. That just, it defies logic in that regard, that you would call a witness when someone is on trial for their life and never having communicated with them with respect to that testimony. So I think we got a little deep into the weeds as opposed to addressing the specific issues that Judge Cannoni wants addressed with respect to disclosures and misrepresentations.
It felt that way, but not being a lawyer, I wasn't sure.
Well, I'm going to ask Mike.
You play one on TV.
Right.
Yeah,
They
I'm going to
love
ask
the
him for some
Commonwealth.
credits for today.
They
because
love the
from
Commonwealth.
you know, because I'm ready to go to law school after this.
This
So
panel
it's
loves the
been a
Commonwealth.
journey, that is for sure. So don't go anywhere. Obviously, a lot more to talk about. But right now, there's so much resting on Judge Cannoni. We certainly have talked about her a lot. So we wanted to get some perspective from someone who's actually been in that chair, literally. Jack Lew is a retired judge, once worked in the same court where Judge Cannoni now serves. And he spoke to our Michael Rosenfield, who is joining us live. Michael?
Thanks,
Yeah,
Art.
JC, lots of analysis coming in today, including from a retired judge who knows Judge Cannoni and is familiar with some of these issues that she's dealing with. Retired Judge Jack Lew worked here at this courthouse. And part
I mean,
of the
honestly, Alessi, and I want to go here. Lauren says, I also disagree. He had tabs and a timeline. What a bunch of clowns. I mean, he couldn't have walked this whole presentation through yesterday in a better way. I mean, it was concise. It was in a book. He made it clear that the Commonwealth doesn't have anything like this. He made extra copies so everybody could follow along. I mean, it was a masterful presentation. And yeah, it was long because they had to make all of the connections and to make sure that Reed's team is not in any type of violation. And this is a strategy tactic from Brennan. Let's waste the time. Let's waste the resources. Let's put them through this hell. And at the end of the day, you already know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. If you see that crawl at the bottom of the screen, I know some people have just joined the room. We're trying to raise some money for Karen Reed's defense fund today. If you could please, considering just donating $4.50, and that is for Karen Reed's 45th birthday today. The link is pinned to the top of the chat. Just click on that, make that small donation, and inside the comment section, put LTL Media because I want to total up the donations at the end of this stream. All right, let's keep going through this, and then we're going to get to the Ted Daniel, Karen Reed interview.
16 years he spent working in the state superior court system in Massachusetts. He says Judge Cannoni had to hold the special hearing because everything must be done beyond reproach in case this ends up being appealed down the road to the Massachusetts Supreme Court. Judge Cannoni wants to make sure there are no problems. At issue today, allegations, as you heard, that Karen Reed's attorneys may have misled the court by not acknowledging that two of their expert witnesses were paid. They were presented as independent experts. Their testimony in the first trial was key because they said John O'Keefe's injuries were not consistent with being hit by a car. Judge Lew tells me he doesn't think Reed's attorneys will be referred to any investigation into unethical conduct, even if Judge Cannoni finds some wrongdoing.
This judge is very careful. I applaud that. And I don't think she would lightly take actions that would result in bar counsel taking actions. But I think she'd be justified in giving somebody a dressing down in court, but a respectful one.
So as you mentioned, this hearing will resume next week. So we'll have to wait and see if there's any potential fallout or repercussions for Karen Reed's attorneys. Live in Dedham, Michael Rosenfield, NBC 10 Boston.
Certainly a lot ahead, Michael. Thank you. So when we return, we want to talk about the Commonwealth's newest prosecutor. We'll look at Hank Brennan's presentation in court today and talk with one of his former legal partners. Welcome back. The Commonwealth has a new special prosecutor in the Karen Reed trial, and we're getting new insight on Hank Brennan from his former legal partner. He spoke with NBC 10's Eli Rosenberg.
the verbal gymnastics that counsel engages in
When the lights shine the brightest,
to distort reality is extraordinary.
like Tuesday's high-stakes hearing in the Karen Reed case, is when those who know Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan say he brings his best.
If you're going to donate, please, it's just very important to put LTL Media in your comment section so we can add them up. Because I'm seeing some $4.50, but I don't know if it's from this, because I know there's a big campaign going on Facebook right now. All right, let's get through the rest of this, and I'm going to play the part 2 of the Ted Daniel interview. I do have a hard stop at 11 because I have an appointment, but we should be good on time. All right, let's keep playing through here.
Hank is so successful because he's unflappable.
Was there an eyewitness? No.
J.W. Carney Jr. has seen a lot during his time as a lawyer, including working with Brennan when both represented James Whitey Bulger more than a decade ago.
Hank is calm. He doesn't yell at people. He doesn't try to trick people. There's almost nothing he overlooks. In Whitey Bulger's case, he
doesn't try to trick people. Okay. He just misdirects with a lot of smoke and mirrors.
Had file after file after file for witnesses.
The Bulger trial bringing with it a crush of media.
I'm very proud of our team.
The Reed case coming with similar interests.
I know Hank was delighted to handle this case. He had watched it a little bit, like we all did.
And he said he didn't
Hank
watch the
is
trial,
coming
so
up
get
with
that right.
ways that he will cross-examine witnesses that will really unravel their stories if they're lying.
But I care that it's unfair, imbalanced, and hidden.
Brennan's attention to detail was on display last week. Brennan using a pretrial motion hearing to call into question the use of accident reconstruction experts by Karen Reed's defense.
The Commonwealth just provided the court with information that causes me grave concern.
Leading the judge to halt the hearing. It all an example, Carney says, of Brennan's approach to this case and every case he handles.
Hank's attention to detail will be a great help to him during this trial because he will not only have read every document and thought about every document, but responded to defense claims in a very powerful way.
And one more interesting note, you'll of course remember Karen Reed's first trial lasted some 9 weeks, prosecutors calling 68 different witnesses. Not so on the prosecution side this second time around. According to Carney, he says Brendan's style is more direct. He only calls the witnesses he needs to help explain and state his case.
Okay.
Live in Dedham, Eli Rosenberg,
Okay.
NBC 10 Boston.
Eli, thank you. We're back with Michael Coyne and Sue O'Connell. Michael, got to see Brennan in court today. A fair
And they're here for the Commonwealth?
amount of him. How did you think he handled today?
I thought he did a great job. I think Jay Connie's right. That's high praise from Caesar, is that he is the dean of the criminal defense bar, and what he saw and his colleague Hank Brennan, we all saw today. I think he handled himself effectively. He handled the case well. He didn't use too much of the court's time to make his points, but his points, I think, were very strong and consistent with what the judge wanted to examine as part of this hearing, is the focus on the misrepresentations, focus on the sidebar conferences, and focus on whether Rule 14 was in fact followed with respect to those disclosures. So I think he did a terrific job representing the people of the Commonwealth.
I would say though, JC, though, yeah, meticulous. But remember, in that hearing, he got some information wrong. He thought that the discovery was sent by the federal government, by the feds, when it was actually sent by the defense.
Right.
And to the point, though, there is a mountain of information that both he and Alessi and anybody else have to catch up on. So he made a crucial mistake in that hearing, which they tried to really bring home, that, you know, we gave you the discovery and you said you didn't get it.
Oh, they love Brennan. God, Sue O'Connell loves Brennan. She loves him. Loves him, loves him, loves him. Wow.
And that, I don't know that that dog's going to hunt very far.
But the difference is that he immediately corrected the mistake and misrepresentation he made to the court.
They
where
loved
that was
him.
never done with respect to the defendant's representations to the court until the 13th of February of this year. What is that, 6, 7, 8 months after the case was tried?
That's what I remember Brennan sort of wrapping that up with. Hey, you know, we said we made a mistake and they're not saying they've made any mistakes. That's sort of, all right, we have so many more questions for you. Don't go away.
Did they just say that what? This reporter's so they're all pro Commonwealth. I love this shit. I love watching this shit. Let's hear that again.
That's what I remember Brennan sort of wrapping that up with. Hey, you know, we said we made a mistake and they're not saying they've made any mistakes. That's sort of, all right, we have so many more questions for you. Don't go away.
This one right here, she wants to see Karen go down hard.
Still to come, the federal investigation into the death of John O'Keefe has ended with nobody charged. So
has it ended, really? Has it really ended? Because I'm going to tell you yesterday, and I just, like I said, I tweeted at Christina Rex. She said, oh, my sources tell me that the federal investigation has ended. Let's just put this out there. Do you think yesterday that at the very, very end of court, or right when Brennan stood up yesterday, that he wouldn't have inserted after listening to Alessi talk all day about the feds, to get that on the record and say, yeah, well, the federal investigation has ended? You don't think that he would have said that yesterday?
How could that impact the state's case against Karen Read? We dig into it when Canton Confidential returns.
I love watching this shit.
We are back with Michael and Sue. One thing we learned yesterday from NBC 10 Boston sources is that the federal investigation into the death of John O'Keefe has ended with nobody charged. So how does that get broached or used in the second trial?
I think what is likely going to happen is they'll treat it the same way as the first trial, is that it really isn't relevant that whether the government charges or doesn't charge as a result of their investigation. It's not relevant to this case simply because—
Crazy that you would go on record and state that to the public without actually having an actual source, or it being stated in the courtroom, or showing a document that it's ended. That's pretty bad journalism, in my opinion. Pretty bad journalism, in my opinion.
Because at best it's an allegation. Now it's a non-allegation. It doesn't say something didn't happen. It says that they didn't find any evidence that would support criminal activity that they could charge.
Just to remind everybody, this is the federal investigation into the investigation. So it really is separate from the case itself. Sue, I wanted to bring you in on this point. Alessi was pointing out that when Cannoni stopped last week's hearings, she said she has grave concerns, and the prosecution stood up and made all these allegations without an official affidavit or a motion or anything. He thinks that has sort of tainted the jury pool, made it biased. Let's listen to a little bit of that. We'll talk about it.
It's true.
And I'm not saying this for drama's sake. I'm saying this for what has impacted the defense 6 weeks before trial starts, while jury notices are out in the mail. Those words, based upon the misdirections that your court had to endure, have gone through, and I'll just name a few headlines in the Globe, the Herald, every TV outlet, social media exploded. And these are not trivial issues. And more than that, the veracity of counsel has been called into question. There's commentary of everybody about what's going to happen to certain members of the counsel's team, and whether it's intended or collateral damage. We've got the ARCA experts, which are key parts of our case. Their credibility is being pillared throughout the public domain.
Up a little bit.
And this could have been avoided.
2 words, grave concern, and apparently we've had a media storm. Is that right?
Yeah, so the Karen Read defense team being upset that there might be things leaked out that social media might have a storm about, or that people might jump to conclusions about, or people might pick a side about before a jury has been picked, or a jury has deliberated, or a jury has delivered a verdict is a little rich. But this is what lawyers are supposed to do, right? This is the job they do, regardless of what their team has done in the past. And I'll note, there were no affidavits today either on either side. The defense could have come in with affidavits. They could have come in and said, look, we took all this time. We did this great report. We've got it. And here's the evidence and a sworn affidavit saying this is what happened. So, you know, the one thing I love that I learned about this case is that you always hate the lawyer that's on the other side, right? But if that lawyer did a good job, you would hire them in a heartbeat if you needed them. So he's just doing what he's supposed to do. But it is rich to be accusing, of beating the bushes a little bit and poisoning the well when
They
we've seen a lot
love the
Everybody
Commonwealth.
hates lawyers until
So
they
you
need
need
us.
one, right?
Well, that's the truth. Always has been.
Oh,
But we
they
love
love
Michael.
the Commonwealth.
Stay right there. We'll be right back.
All right, I'm done with that. Let's get to what we really want to see here. Ted Daniel with Karen Reed, part 2. And this is the full interview that they released inside that SUV. If you are just coming in or you haven't had a chance, we're trying to raise a little bit of money for Karen Reed's defense fund today. If you just look at the crawl on the bottom, we're trying to just get everybody to donate at least $4.50 to a defense fund. You can click the link at the top and make that donation. And in your donation, just please somewhere in your comment section, put LTL Media. Then I'm going to try to add them up at the end of the stream and just see how much money we've raised, in an hour and a half or so. And then this afternoon, I have something bigger planned. I just haven't announced the time yet. And you'll just have to stick with me, but we're going to do something this afternoon as well, too. Okay, let's get through this. I have a hard stop at 11. So I might actually speed this up a little bit. I'm going to try to talk very minimal through it because I would like to listen along with all of you. And if you can just continue to keep trying to donate here, it would be a really great for Karen today. All right, let's play this.
How many nights do you think that you've stayed at a hotel since this legal saga began?
Since the legal saga began, well, trial was every bit of 10 weeks and then a week or so leading up to it. So that's 100 days, 90 plus days. And then every hearing, at least one day. And that's just not having a license and being out in the suburbs. Now I don't have my house anymore. So I'm always in transition of where I'm staying. So, and when Alan and Liza come in and now Bob, and if it's one of our experts, time is of the essence, and I like to be involved in everything. So I certainly don't want my legal team convening and I'm not there. You miss one day of this case on this legal team and you're behind. We just got a discovery dump today. This tends to happen right before a hearing. We get discovery. I wonder if part of that is preempting us saying in court in open forum that we're still waiting on this, and this. So then we get it, and then we haven't had time to really distill it before we're back in court, but we just got a dump today. And it's nice because the lawyers are coming in and we're kind of all combing through it. We'll sit down tonight and go through it. We'll have time again tomorrow to go through it. So staying with them helps foster this logistically.
During this time when there is no trial, we see you in court once every, 3 months? But what's going on when we're not seeing you? This is it, right?
This is it. I work on the case every day. From when I wake up, I'll take a few breaks. I'll have dinner with friends or with my family or both. But the hearing those are easy days. I mean, they're easy for me. I don't have to do anything, but it's all the days in between. Now this is the second trial. So for any given witness, there's the initial police reports, or in some cases, no police reports. We've got the state grand jury, then we've had a federal grand jury, and now a trial, and then any interim police reports that involve some of these witnesses. So it's layers of statements, and the inconsistencies are just seemingly endless. So there's always work to do, and it's like finding a needle in a haystack, that the report may look at a first glance to read the same, but then you read it 2 or 3 times and it starts to sink in. We were just looking at a police report, my father and I, a couple mornings ago, early police report from January 29th by Michael Lank with the Canton PD. And I've read this so many times that I don't know if I've become desensitized to it, but he says to Matt McCabe when he goes into 34 Fairview, if John got in a fight the night before. And I always read that as
and that's documented?
Wow.
That's documented in the Canton police report from that day, 3 years ago, nearly to the hour to right now. But now that I read it, I'm like, of course he's being asked if he knew of John getting into a fisticuffs, because John looks like he was.
Right.
Wow.
And those are things that I read in the moment when I was arrested and then arraigned on February 2nd. And I don't quite know the contours of what I'm dealing with. I first think that this is just mistaken. I was hysterical. I was drinking, and they just got the wrong person. And then piece by piece, it came together. Like they got the right person. I'm the wrong person, but for them, I was the right person. Now, 3 years later, looking at a police report that I got on February. Actually, David came and brought it to the holding cell, the Stoughton District Courthouse on February 2nd, right before I was arraigned. You see something every time that you just can't see without repetition. Your eyes like preempt what the next word is with the next sentence, and it doesn't have the same meaning to you today on January 29th, 2025 that it did in 2022.
So are you going through all the police reports that you've looked at prior and all the statements? You're going through everything again?
You got to go through everything again, because every time you get something new, it's not what is this on its face in my case, it's what's changed. What are they saying now versus what did they say 6 months ago, 12, 18 months ago? So you're always doing, I mean, I've got some things in a spreadsheet, that's how my mind has always worked, but some things you just have to read. You've got to go through the court minutes, go through the transcripts. But a police report today, we'll read something. Liza and I were on the phone on the way up here, and it's, wait a minute, what did this witness say, or what did this responding officer say back on February 10th, 2022? Well, now he's saying this. So you've got to always compare and see what's changed.
Do you feel like you've gotten more astute doing this now for 3 years?
I feel I understand now how it's gonna. I understand better how it's going to play in court. I think of things I was texting David constantly in the early days of this. I'd find something and I think, well, can't we go talk to this person? And they'll say it didn't happen that way. And now I know better how tough it is to get, especially in my case, how tough it is to get something admitted. Even going into trial with my seasoned attorneys, there were things we thought we could show, like an exhibit, for example, like one witness, Christina Hanley, the key part of her forensic report at the MSP lab, and she's just a scientist, a civilian, but the glass on the bumper that was photographed on the bumper does not match the cocktail glass, So that means it's from another piece of glass. So that had to have been two breaking events. There's the glass that was found around John's body, the base, I think it was Lank that pulled it out with his gloves on, or maybe it was Buchnick, the base of the cocktail glass. That is scientifically proven by the state police, Christina Hanley, not to be the glass that was on the bumper.
But I think the jury was left in the first trial with the impression that it was the glass.
Yes, because it's so confusing. Nothing's referred.
These are the things, as Karen talks about this, these are points that are going to be, I believe, majorly raised in round two. I think they're going to be very well prepared. Very, very well prepared this time around.
To as the cocktail glass or the bumper glass or the lawn glass. It's 7-1 item 5 or item A, or 7-12.
I mean, all the pieces are there. It's just a matter of them preparing and getting it to this jury and having this jury understand it. And again, simplifying it. KISS, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Not that I'm calling any of these people stupid because they're brilliant, but I'm just saying, make it simple for the jury for them to understand.
Items A, B, C, D, and E. And then there's more glass found by Proctor, and that's 7-13 item A. And when you have the scientist who, my guess is worried that we're trying to impeach her, when we're in fact not, we just wanted her to present the report. And this is, I don't know when she testified, but it's mid-trial, it's 2 p.m, it's 80 degrees outside, and you see jurors' eyes glass over, and I know what's coming. I know what that report is, and it doesn't come out cleanly. So we were thinking going into trial, we could summarize what she was saying using her own acronyms and abbreviations. Here's 7-12, here's 7-13, no match, something like that. And that exhibit was denied. So we were learning on the fly things we
not having a sidebar, correct? Because I don't remember.
We haven't a sidebar.
Okay. So this is a very familiar spot in Boston for you. This is your old life.
This is my old life that I go by probably once a week. I took the train in and out of South Station every day to where I lived in Mansfield. And I'd come out the back, and this is where I worked for 15 years.
Wow.
Fidelity at 245 Summer Street. And
equity analyst was your title.
I was equity research. My role was a sector specialist, and it was in this building at 245.
Do you still stay in contact with any of the people you work with?
I do. I would say about half of my donations have come from former colleagues at Fidelity. Half of what you're aware of that you can see has come from former Fidelity colleagues. So it's funny, Ted. I was sent home from Fidelity from that building, I want to say the second week in February 2020, the pandemic. And I remember talking to someone on the subway. I took like a 2 p.m. train back to Mansfield. I was talking to someone else who had been sent home from a job, a different facility.
Because of COVID.
And we were saying, well, we'll be back in a week, right? 2 weeks. Little did I know, I'd reconnect with someone I had dated nearly 20 years earlier in 2004. I'd be working from home for 2 years, and then he would be tragically killed, murdered. And I've been framed for it. And I never would set foot in that building again. So it was a pandemic, and then I was suspended from Fidelity officially as soon as I was indicted.
Is that their policy?
I would think so. I would think so, that it means there's been some due process.
Is there hard feelings about that? Or could you even have kept your job even if you wanted
I would not be capable of having that responsibility to shareholders and trying to save my own life. I was bitter at first, but I understand it. I just had such strong, tender feelings and I still do, for Fidelity. I would have stayed there forever. I was very happy there. But as former coworkers have reached out, have donated incredibly generously, I feel like, all right, it's the company is the people, and they've been there for me. And
do you miss that?
I miss working every day. I miss just being ordinary and not feeling like people are looking at me everywhere I go.
Does that happen?
It does. I don't know that everyone is, but I know people approach me everywhere I go, and I have to imagine there's people who aren't approaching me that recognize me. But I've come to terms with the fact, Ted, that this is what my purpose is in my life. It wasn't working at Fidelity. It wasn't teaching a night class at Bentley. Those jobs are replaceable. Someone else is doing the job. Someone else is teaching. Someone else is the dean at Bentley now that my father's gone. And we're here to shed light on the corruption that exists in this state. And I feel humbled by it in some ways. It's a nightmare, and I wish it never happened. But I also feel that I can handle this, and I don't feel weaker as it goes. I feel stronger. And the public support is the restoration of my reputation, which was a big loss, has re-energized me, has energized me, rejuvenated me. But this is what I'm here for. And I get messages constantly mainly from people I've never met and from people that are suffering. And it's a lot of women that have either had like a physical loss of a spouse or a child, or an illness similar to mine, or with a colostomy bag, or have been the victim of police harassment or some type of unfairness with the criminal justice system. And there's a lot of suffering in this world. Mine is just very visible, but I do feel honored isn't the right word, but I'm humbled by it. And I feel like this is your purpose. And a lot of people have purposes thrust on them that they didn't really want.
So people will stop you on these streets. What do they say to you?
A lot of times, so I just went to the cobbler to get shoes that I'm going to wear to court this week that I wore out during trial. And the cobbler on Tremont Street and someone in the shop said to me, just very respectfully, hang in there. And a lot of people are pulling for you. I hear that probably the most, if I could generalize the sentiment. We're pulling for you, hang in there. I was walking through the Common when the weather was warmer in the fall with an old friend from Fidelity. And someone just was running, some guy maybe about 25, 30 years old, running through the Common. And he waited until he passed me. And this was about 5 o'clock. There were people everywhere. And he just yelled, "Free Karen Reed." People will yell that in a busy area. But it's constant. And it's heartwarming to me that this is my old stomping grounds. I used to live here in a building on the other side of this park lane. That was my first apartment. I met my best girlfriend there. And then I started working at Fidelity.
Were you in your 20s when you all started?
I was in my 20s when I started at Fidelity. I'd been somewhere before that. But this area is comfortable to me. And there was a year that was kind of in hibernation where the general public did not know the truth of what had happened.
Right.
So I didn't know when I went out, what are people thinking? I would go check my mail or bring my garbage barrels in at night. I'd wait until nighttime, and then I'd go out to the street on Gilbert Street where I used to live in Mansfield. And I just didn't want anyone looking at me or wondering or judging. And now I can only go out when I have energy and I'm ready to engage and I'm receptive to it. I mean, if we're having a rough day with a case or something personal, I can't just go out and be anonymous and just sit and
because someone will approach you.
Someone will approach you, but it always feels good.
Yep.
And it makes me think, right, these are common people. These are the jurors.
Yep.
And I've had one experience with someone saying something negative to me. And I've had, I don't know, countless.
Imagine living your life like that. Like you're just worried. You're living at home. You've been wrapped up in this case for a year. And you're literally stuck in your house. And then you have to take your garbage out and get your mail, and you're trying to do that under the late night cover of night. So no one yells at you, screams at you. It's unbelievable.
During trial, every time we went somewhere on an average night or an average lunch outing, 20 people. In the summer during trial in this neighborhood, we'd have 15 to 20 people just to go out for lunch for an hour. We'd get stopped that many times. It does feel good. The contrast with what it was like before this, before people knew, it does feel good. It's just takes a lot out of you.
Have you always been high energy and sort of on the move, or have you had to sort of reach deep?
I've always worked well under pressure. I've had other challenges in my life, and I always feel stronger after I overcome them. What I've had to learn to do is keep things in perspective, not let the evil that's entered my life take over how I feel about people in general. And that's another reason when I'm out in a busy area, it's like, right, this is humanity. It's just there's a few powerful people who don't have good intentions that have a lot of control over my life right now. But yeah, I've been, I would say, yeah, high energy. I mean, I was sick for a while, so notwithstanding that period, but I don't usually crumble under stress.
In your day-to-day, sort of since the first trial ended, would you say that, do you get any free time? Like if you're going to decompress, like what's that going to be? What's that? Do you like listening to music? Do you have shows, books? Where do you find that sort of, where do you get that rejuvenation from?
I feel the best when I'm working on the case. If I have a dinner planned with someone, and inevitably the conversation at the dinner table always turns to the case, or someone comes over and wants to talk about the case. I do have shows. I try to make it a policy, Ted, unless something is really pressing that comes up at night. I try by 8 or 9 o'clock to put some thoughtless TV on, a reality show or a movie, something fictional that I've wanted to see, just to help me sleep.
Yeah.
And the first year, the first 6 months, a year of this hell, I had nightmares. I dreamed about John. I dreamed about finding him. I had this recurring dream that he survived but didn't know what happened to him. I've not had that dream in a long time.
Wow.
But I found I've got to try to force my brain to shut off, and then it becomes muscle memory. Then by 10 or 11 o'clock at night, once you practice, in my experience anyway, once you practice a routine enough, it becomes easier.
When does the day start? If it ends around 8 o'clock at night, are you working from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. typically?
Yeah, I mean, there's breaks. I'll take breaks. I'll do stuff. Until recently, I lived in my house. I would do projects. I'd wallpaper or paint or work in my yard. Just for health reasons, just to get fresh air, get sun on my face.
Do you ever running, or do you like?
Yeah, I actually sold my treadmill to my neighbor when I moved, so I don't really run anymore. I try to lift weights every day for at least 20 or 30 minutes. It just.
Is that also therapeutic?
Yeah, it is. It is. I listen to music all the time.
Who do you like?
U2 is my favorite. Okay. But I love anything. I love classic rock, alt rock. Seems all my friends are getting into country or heaven. Yeah. It's an acquired taste. I'm trying.
Yeah, no, I haven't jumped on that.
I can't. I've been told my music all sounds the same, so I don't like telling other people that, but I kind of have to tell country music fans that this also.
I'm sorry, I can't do country music either, Karen. I'm right there with you. I can't do it. Oh, U2's their favorite. That's great. I actually got to see U2 when they came back and did the Joshua Tree tour. Oh God, it must have been 2017 or 18. It was like the 30th anniversary of it. I saw them at, oh God, is it the Meadowlands, the new stadium? Well, it was new then. They had just built it in New York City, in New York, just outside the city, where the Giants and the Jets play. And I had the opportunity to go there with my company at the time, and we were in a suite. I'm not a huge U2 fan. Yeah, after about an hour or so, I'm kind of like, they have some really great songs on that album, but their presentation was unbelievable. And they had a huge screen behind them that was probably, holy smokes, 100 feet long, maybe 50 feet tall. And they had this presentation with, all the Joshua trees out in the desert. And it was amazing. Well worth the show to go see. And to go see it in a suite was pretty amazing. So good stuff. All right, let's go.
Sounds the same to me.
Have you been able to survive the last 3 years without falling into a depression, or have you and come out? Are you still in it?
No, I haven't, Ted. I felt grief at the loss of John, and I've never been with someone so intimately, and then they're just gone from the earth. It's not like other relationships I've had where at least they're there. You may pass them on the street or you may text them. The day after he died on January 30th, David told me I needed to hire a private investigator, and I did right away. And on January 30th, he drove to my parents. It was still snowing the day after John was killed. My PI picked me up and he said, "We need to go retrace your steps."
You did that on the 30th?
I did it on the 30th. And it was one of the worst days of my life. No disrespect to my PI, who I love. And I'm sure he was equally uncomfortable, but I could barely even get ready to leave. I'd just cleaned up for the first time. I'd still, up until that point, still had John's blood in my hair. I didn't have any clothes because I didn't think I wasn't going back to John's house. And we retraced my steps, and I drove by John's house, and there had to have been 20 cars, maybe more, wrapped around the block. And I felt like I was looking in on my life from the sky. That window, all my things are in there. I was just in there with him. And now I'm gone, and he's gone, and he's never going back. And they're mourning him, and I'm not there. And so those first few months, I think I started to get my sea legs. My two best friends, my best friend and her husband came, and we rented an Airbnb in Newport for 3 days at the end of March. It was cold. It was raining the whole time. We had dinner, and then we just went back and talked about the case. And it was very emotional, just a lot of emotions from all of us. And they had spent a lot of time with John. And David reached out to me while I was down in Newport. And he said, we've got some discovery. And we hadn't gotten anything but the initial police report.
This is March 20.
This is late March 2022. I was reading the discovery, and they were implying in this report from Michael Proctor that I had deleted ring footage from John's house. That was the first time. It almost jolted me, Ted, back to, you've got to start fighting. They're coming for you. This is not a case of they misconstrued my behavior or were told things that weren't accurate about me that morning. This was, oh, now they've got me deleting things. This is nefarious. What they're accusing me of is nefarious behavior, and the way they're doing it is nefarious. And I realized then when they drove me back to my house in Mansfield, this is getting even more serious than it already was. And I had my routine dealing with the grief, and it was, I woke up every morning, I prayed. I missed the kids very much at first, and my dad would come, John's niece and nephew. My dad would come over almost every day, and the O'Keefes had taken out a stay away order almost immediately, within like 48 or 72 hours. So it wasn't even an option to reach out to them. It was like they were gone too. And my dad picked up my rosary beads, which were on an end table in my living room. And he said, when you think about them and you feel helpless that you can't reach out to, you just pray for them. That's all you can do. So that was part of my morning routine. I would read, I would pray, because I was up very early. And then I started to get into this routine of working on the case from like 10 a.m. to whenever it started to get dark. And I'd call one of the attorneys, or I'd call someone in my family or one of my friends, like, this doesn't sound right. This doesn't look right. These times aren't right. These names aren't right. And then it's been a steady, I get really charged. I feel like I'm fighting. I'm covering ground, and I'm doing something constructive. I'm
just going to pause here really quick. If you've just come in and out of the room, what we're trying to do is Karen Reed's 45th birthday today. She's had to live through this nightmare for almost 3 years, just over 3 years now, of being dragged through the system for something that she did not do. She's an innocent woman, and we're trying to raise some money for her defense today. So if you see the crawl on the bottom of the screen there, it is her 45th birthday. So it'd be great if you all could just donate $4.50 to her defense team. The link is attached to the top of the chat. It's probably very busy today, so it may be hard to make that donation, but if you can continue throughout the day, that would be great. What I'm going to do is at the end of the stream is try to total up the donations, and what would make it easier is in your comment section, just put something like LTL Media, and then we can try to add them up at the end, and hopefully we can raise some money here for her during this. I will be back later this afternoon to do something. I just haven't announced the time because I do have some personal stuff, but just keep an eye out on my channel. You'll see it pop up, and if you can make it, that would be great. All right, let's keep playing through. I do have a hard stop at 11 o'clock, so I'm hoping I can make it through this here.
I can't litigate this. I don't know legally how to maneuver, but I can at least help provide my attorneys with the materials they need to put together a motion or a cross-examination. I can do that dirty work.
How much of the day-to-day decisions are Karen Reed?
I have a strong vote in the decisions. I will always defer to Alan and David and Liza. They know best. They have the experience. But the longer this goes, I have more confidence in my decisions. Things I've suspected were happening or that are going to happen have happened. And I think that's because this is my only experience in this arena, and it's been very negative. And the motives of players in this on behalf of law enforcement are disingenuous, to put it mildly. And I think David and Alan have a wider sample with wider outcomes than I do. They've worked with honest cops, honest DAs. So I'm much more pessimistic right now, and therefore I just happen to be better calibrated than they are.
It sounds to me like maybe it wasn't a seminal moment, but there was a time that the grief was so heavy, and it's almost like you felt you were getting backed into a corner by what you were seeing in like the filings and the accusations, that kind of...
I think I channeled the grief into something constructive. And then somewhere in the middle of it all, I think I know that the lowest point of this whole thing for me, apart from 6 a.m. on January 29th, was getting rearrested. And now I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't physically expecting it. I wasn't mentally or emotionally. And then legally, I didn't even know you could be upcharged. I didn't even know that was a thing. I was expecting to be indicted because of, ham sandwiches, but I wasn't expecting to be indicted for intentionally doing this now. And so somewhere in the middle of all that, there's no time. There's no space to mourn anymore. Think about your previous life. It's like they've held me back at the starting blocks, and they've had this massive head start. I've got to catch up, and I've just got to put my head down and work. And it's been like that ever since. I mean, even if I get away, if I go see friends in Florida, I stay and work on the case, and then they pick me up for dinner, and we go out for 3 hours. And then it's, I'm getting some vitamin D and some sunlight, but other than that, it's the case, and that's how I feel best. I'll be so happy when it's over, but until I'm acquitted, this is the only thing that calms me down. I feel good going to bed at night knowing I've put in a solid chunk of time, that if I have to sift through these lies and this knot of lies, I'll just undo it thread by thread, and I'll take whatever you want to dish out.
How many pieces of paper have you put your hands on in this case?
I've worked a lot online. A lot of it is in Dropbox, and that was necessitated by being in this car and getting a call from, like, the whole ride up here. I was talking to Liza, and we just got Discovery, and there's not time, and it's not really efficient to print out whatever we got today, 200 pages, and digest it. But I can flip through my phone or my laptop. So, but if I were to convert it to paper, Ted, at this point, it's probably around like 10,000, I'd say. On top of videos, hundreds of Ring videos, hours of video from the waterfall, from C.F. McCarthy's, voicemails, phone records. Even that, we downloaded Jen McCabe's gray key extraction, and we were in the physical analyzer for Celebrate. You don't even know where to start. Do I look at when was her phone unlocked? When was it vertical versus horizontal? Was there a temperature change in the phone? Was there an elevation change? When was the phone unlocked?
That's how granular you're getting?
Yeah, because you just don't know like John's phone, for example, when it was locked, when it was in, when the backlight was on, when did he read his last text? And Jen, for example, we went through all her location data. Well, Rick Green did, but then Rick gives us access to Celebrate, so I can go through it myself. It wasn't until trial started, the jury was impaneled, and Rick called us and said, on a whim, I started looking at Jen's location data for the days immediately following January 29th. And does this address mean anything to you? And it was Michael Lang's address.
Wow.
And that came up at trial. Yep. And then they tried to preempt it by this police report that we got after Jen took the stand, after she's already gone, saying, yeah, Jen was there. I don't know what her story was, trading cupcake recipes with Lang's wife. Once again, at a lead investigator's house on this case, but he wasn't there. She was talking to the wife, which is a story.
Right, and she said she never got out of the car.
Yep. Said she never got out of the car. This was, I think, the date at Lang's house was January 30th. It was still snowing that day. It's freezing, but she doesn't get out. They sit, and she said, I think she said it could have been a half hour. They're just sitting in the driveway, which doesn't make much.
I'm pretty sure it does, because this can measure all the temperature in the phone. It's very interesting. It's an interesting point.
Common sense, but that location data had to be parsed from all her location data that comes in latitude and longitude coordinates with like 6 decimal places. And if you see negative 42.873565, it doesn't mean anything to you. You've got to then translate it to a map using another software, and then a lot of it's all around her house, and then maybe it's at the grocery store. And
did that come from the feds?
That Jen's phone, Jen turned in herself, but it's so tedious. And that was a big data point that she was at his house. And we didn't find it until 2 years into this. There's always more to find. So it's not as if I'm retreading tracks, trying to find something I might have missed. There's always more ground to cover. And now that the case is so public and people are so supportive, now it's trying to digest these tips and which ones are fake, first of all.
So people send you tips.
We get tips constantly. A lot go directly to David and or Alan. Some come over Facebook, some go to the administrators of the social media pages.
What is the normal procedure? Your attorneys will meet, several days, the night before?
Whatever they can afford to do.
Yeah, Alan Jackson's coming in tonight for a Friday hearing. And so are you essentially war rooming until that hearing?
Yeah, we'll war room. We have a few tips we want to follow up on. Alan tries to jam the schedule. If there's somebody that wants to meet with us, that might tell us something useful. We'll schedule, we'll cram in as much as we can get in.
So you're still developing information?
Yeah. We got information today about John's phone that is exculpatory.
But from outside source as well, not
From outside, yeah, no, from outside. But sometimes, Ted, it's the internal discovery that opens up another door, another rabbit hole we've got to go down that might make sense with something we've heard. It's constant triangulation of what do we know? What have we been given in discovery? Of that discovery, how much can we actually rely on? How much do we think is manufactured? And then does it dovetail with anything we've heard from people in the community?
Right.
I mean, if I could afford to, I would have the lawyers and I'd have more PIs. My PI's great, but we throw everything at them, and we'd be trying to follow leads.
Does your private investigator work full time for you?
No.
So
no.
it's
He's
as
ad
it
hoc,
comes. So.
Yeah. Sometimes I won't speak to him for a month, but he's always following things, following the case, and just give him a heads up, day's notice, and he's going to meet us tomorrow in the afternoon to track down a few things. A lot of it ends up being nothing, or it's something that's not admissible. A ton of it is hearsay, which is something I didn't know anything about going into this. Well, someone heard from someone else that parts of the basement were replaced or something was broken in the house, and can't go anywhere with it.
So does Robert Alessi then, does he take part in like this sort of day-to-day stuff, or is he more focused on sort of, like he was critical in the Dr. Russell? So is that, are portions of the case divvied up then to different people to work on?
Yeah, so ideally we would be full-time trial prep, or at least full-time for me, and when the lawyers are working on my case, it's trial prep. And now we've gotten this curveball for these job requests that it's and we're expecting more. So we've gone through Dr. Russell on the dog bites, now Rick Green on the Google search.
So for people who don't understand this, so you only had 6 people testify in the first trial, and for the second trial, the prosecution is trying to prevent
most of them.
How many experts are they trying to prevent right now?
I don't know where they're going to go with ARCA, but I think
So they did file a motion about the ARCA guys.
They did file a motion. They actually filed an intent to file the motion about ARCA. They're trying to accuse us of a discovery violation that they don't have all the available information on ARCA. I didn't hire ARCA.
Right. And that information can only come from the feds.
That information can only come from the feds. So that's 4. We're not calling back Frank Sheridan. And that just leaves Lucky Laughlin. He's the 6th one. So there's no other. If there were more witnesses, I'd probably have more of these hearings.
And Lucky's still.
Lucky still didn't see a body, Ted.
Okay.
I picture every day that they're working on framing me, and every day that they do that, and I'm taking the day off, they're getting one day ahead of me. So I only feel relaxed as I can be if I'm working on the case.
Do you think there's a greater purpose in all of this?
I am not the first person this has happened to. I'm not going to be the last, sadly, but maybe there'll be fewer after me because of this. I think it's happening to people in this. I know it is in this county, in Essex, in Norfolk, and Suffolk, in Bristol. It's happened too easily.
Were you surprised when a new prosecutor was appointed, and an outside prosecutor?
Nothing surprises me anymore. What troubles me is how evil people are. And you don't need to have a strong opinion about my guilt or innocence, but you can't be an attorney in the Boston area and not see this case for what it is, and then to want to thrust yourself in it and think you can prove this beyond a reasonable doubt.
And you said you're still receiving discovery or evidence from the state. How does that make sense after you already had a trial?
The state told us, and Canoni has echoed this, that this is a whole new trial. It's almost like a whole new case. We started getting discovery from Bates Stamp 1, page 1. Some of it is duplicative, and a lot of it's new. We've gotten brand new reports from Ian Whiffen, data that we've never seen before. From Jessica Hyde, there's a doctor now, not a medical doctor, but like a veterinarian expert. We just found out today, measured supposedly Chloe's teeth. No address, no contact phone number.
Did they take molds of the teeth?
They measured the teeth, yeah.
Oh, no. That would be huge. That would be huge. Oh, boy. Okay, let's try to do this. I do have a hard stop at 11. I'm going to try to get through some of these donations and try to add them up. If one of my moderators or someone in the room could do me a solid here, if they could take out their calculator, I'm going to just shoot some numbers out there, and we'll add them up and see how much we raised here in about an hour and 20 minutes for Karen Reed's Defense Fund. That would be great. That would be a huge help for me. So if someone can volunteer and do that, I would love to go through this. So I went through as we were watching that, and I stopped at the first LTL that I saw, or I went through, and anything that had LTL in it. So I'm going to start here. Someone earlier in the room said they donated during the stream $20. So let's start it off with $20. Okay, I'm just going to go to the wide shot here. So we'll go 20. I think Mary's going to help me out. Just see if Mary's ready. Okay, great. Mary, so start with 20, 45. And again, these could have been made during the show, but I want to go because specifically I said LT, you have to put LTL in the comments. So 20 and 45. Let's see if we see any more LTLs. You know, we have a 450. I just don't know if that's for us. Oh, we have a $4.50. We have another $4.50. Oh, we had a $45. Thank you so much, Anonymous. Let's see. Oh, we have another $4.50. We have a $10 donation. We have another $4.50. We have another $4.50. We have another $4.50. And I'm going to refresh just once here, and then I do have a hard stop here. I have to end, unfortunately. But I'll be back this afternoon, I promise. So that was a $50 one. I don't see anything else. Mary, what do we got for total? If anybody can get me a total before we end. 147. Good stuff. We'll round it up. $150. That's good. $150 for about an hour and a half. That's fantastic. And really, really good stuff. So the site is very busy today. It's going to be hard to make donations, but we'll try to continue to do what we did. Yeah, I think it's great too. $150 in an hour and a half towards the defense fund. That could buy someone lunch. That could buy, I don't know, papers, pens, notebooks, whatever they need, you know, and that really does help out. But I will be back later this afternoon. I just haven't announced the time yet because I just have a lot of personal stuff going on today. But look out, you know, just keep an eye out. I'll post up on the Facebook, on my Facebook page and my Twitter account of what time I'm going to start. And we're going to do an extended birthday stream for Karen Reed today here on LTL. So I am actually in honor. I will be seeing Karen on Friday night, Friday evening. I've been invited to a raffle dinner. So I'm going to get to meet the winners of that dinner. And I will be at that dinner with Karen's parents and maybe a little bit of her family, and being having the opportunity to be and see Karen again. I plan on bringing a donation when I go. So I think I'm really excited to do that. I'm really excited to help. And obviously, you know, we'll give you a report when I come back and let you know how everything went. So I'm very excited to meet the raffle winners, and very excited to be there in all of that company. Okay, I need to go. I have an appointment here at 11 o'clock that I have to take. I appreciate everybody hanging out on the stream today. If you haven't, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. I am only 2,000 122 subscribers away from hitting 40,000 subscribers on this channel. If this is your first time here and you like content like this, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Subscribing is the biggest thing. I want to hit that 40,000 by the end of March. On April 1st, I want to be at 40,000 subscribers. That would be fantastic. 50,000 would be amazing, and 100,000 would be insane. But I appreciate everybody being here, all my subscribers, Go Squad members, and people that contribute and donate to this channel to make it go. I do have to take off. I appreciate it, and I will talk to everybody later this afternoon. I hope everybody has an amazing late morning here into the afternoon, and I'll see everybody back later. All right, everybody, have a good day. Bye-bye.